Welcome back to One Piece of History. In this episode, we will look at the historical inspiration Eiichiro Oda drew from when writing the Fishman Island arc. At the bottom, you can see the results of a poll conducted by Tekking 101 among around 13,000 One Piece fans. It shows how arcs like Chaya, Skypiea, and Fishman Island are rated, both as favorites and as least favorites. Fishman Island, in particular, doesn't score well with fans. But in this episode, I want to highlight the deeper historical themes in the arc, and why it might deserve more appreciation. The first fishmen we meet in One Piece are the Arlong pirates. From the start, we see that they despise humans. One of Arlong's crewmates is an octopus fishman called Hachan. Nami, a member of the Straw Hat Pirates, is revealed to have betrayed them, stealing their treasure and being a spy for the Arlong pirates. The villagers where the Arlong pirates reign, in turn, have come to hate the fishmen. After all, they have lived under Arlong's brutal control for years. Arlong claims that fishmen are superior to humans, echoing the real-world concept of racial superiority and the ideologies that fuel it. In a flashback, we see how Arlong seized control of the village 8 years earlier. He killed anyone who couldn't pay his imposed tribute. This tragically included Nami's mother, who didn't have enough money to save both her daughters and herself. Desperate, Nami joined Arlong's crew as part of a plan. She planned to buy back the village's freedom by saving up the money herself. But after 8 long years, Arlong deceived her. He bribed a corrupt marine officer to confiscate all the money she had painstakingly gathered. With all hope lost, Nami breaks down, and finally asks Luffy for help. Luffy answers her call without hesitation. He eventually defeats Arlong and brings an end to his reign of terror. With this, the village is finally freed. The Arlong Park arc leaves the reader with the impression that fishmen are villains, that they are inherently cruel and oppressive. But many chapters later, we meet Hachan again, and things are different. He's filled with guilt over his role in Arlong's crimes, and now runs a peaceful octopus fritter shop. The Straw Hats befriend him, and also meet Kami, a cheerful mermaid who he works with. Around the same time, the so-called Celestial Dragons, or World Nobles, are introduced. They're the highest class of aristocrats in the world, and they openly engage in slavery. Next, Kami is kidnapped by human traffickers, which shocks the Straw Hats. We learn that 200 years ago, fishmen and mermaids were officially classified as fish, not people. They were persecuted, sold, and enslaved worldwide, and this system still thrives in this part of the world. Kami ends up collared and prepared for sale, dehumanized and treated like property in a public auction. She's taken to the human auction house, where living beings are sold like goods to the highest bidder. One of the slaves, a pirate, chooses death over life as a slave. He bites off his own tongue in a brutal act of resistance. When Kami is brought on stage, Luffy barges in, together with Hachan. But Hachan is shot by a celestial dragon, simply for being a fishman. This sets the tone for just how deep the racism runs. Slavery and human trafficking have existed throughout history. Given the racial element, and how it was legal a couple centuries earlier, Oda likely drew inspiration from the Atlantic slave trade, which saw millions of African slaves transported to the Americas by European traders under brutal conditions. In a later arc, Luffy rescues Jinbei, a powerful fishman warrior, from prison, and the two quickly become allies. After a 2-year time skip, the Straw Hats finally arrive at Fishman Island, deep beneath the sea. This place may have been inspired by the legendary city of Atlantis, a fictional underwater realm described by the Greek philosopher Plato. According to his account, Atlantis was once above sea level, but sank after a great conflict with the gods, a theme that may echo the tensions between the fishmen and the world government, as we'll soon explore. The arrival of the Straw Hats at Fishman Island triggers mixed reactions. Kami is thrilled to see them, but others are far less welcoming. The new fishermen pirates see humans as inferior, and even refuse a blood transfusion for Sanji. Meanwhile, Hody Jones, their leader, slaughters another human pirate crew, but he spares them just so they can spread fear. He declares that fishmen are the superior race. King Neptune welcomes some of the Straw Hats to his royal palace, Ryugu Castle. The name is reference to Ryugu-jo, a legendary undersea palace from Japanese folklore. There, they meet the Minister of the Left and the Minister of the Right, titles that were also used in real-life Japanese government, from the Asuka to the Meiji era. Meanwhile, the other Straw Hats find Hachan, who is badly wounded. He was attacked by the new Fishman pirates. Their leader, Hody, sees himself as Arlong's successor and is continuing his legacy. He later tells the Straw Hats that he admired Arlong for turning the tables on humanity, which had long oppressed the Fishmen. Next, Luffy reunites with Jinbei, who makes a confession to the Straw Hats. He was the one who released Arlong into the East Blue 11 years earlier. The Straw Hats tell him how Arlong terrorized Nami's village and destroyed countless lives. Hachan and Jinbei explain that Arlong's hatred was a response to the discrimination fishmen suffered. The roots of this racism go deep. But not everyone chose hate. Two figures tried to break the cycle: Queen Otohime, who preached peace, and Fisher Tiger, the revolutionary who freed slaves and founded the Sun Pirates. Arlong, Hachan, and Jinbei were all once members of this pirate crew. 15 years earlier, Queen Otohime had a dream. She wanted fishmen and humans to coexist peacefully. Since most fishmen only encountered humans as violent pirates, she launched a petition that would allow her people to emigrate to the surface. Queen Otohime's approach was peaceful and idealistic, very much like Martin Luther King during the American Civil Rights Movement. They believed that change can be achieved through dialogue, empathy, and legal reform. Fisher Tiger, on the other hand, had no faith in peaceful solutions. He believed that violence was the only way to challenge injustice. His view was closer to that of the Black Panther Party, or Malcolm X. This contrast between Otohime and Fisher Tiger highlights a common historical tension: the debate between peaceful protest and armed resistance in the fight for civil rights. Even within the Sun Pirates, there were disagreements. Arlong thought that they should kill humans, while Fisher Tiger said that if they killed, they would be just like their oppressors. One day, they rescued a little girl, a human child who had been enslaved. Despite Arlong's protests, Fisher Tiger decided to bring her home safely. But as a result, Fisher Tiger was ambushed by the Navy and fatally wounded. On his deathbed, he confessed that he had been a slave himself. Fisher Tiger seems to also be inspired by historical leaders of slave revolts, like Spartacus, who escaped slavery and inspired rebellion. He ultimately died because he refused a transfusion of human blood. With his dying words, he told his fellow fishermen not to say anything about these circumstances to the people of the island, so that they don't inherit his hatred. After Fisher Tiger's death, Arlong became outraged and left the crew. He was eventually captured by the Navy. Jinbei became the new captain of the Sun Pirates. He made a deal with the world government, which led to Arlong's release. This in turn led to Arlong's reign of terror in Nami's village, wanting to take revenge on humans. Around that same time, a celestial dragon, who had a deep hatred of fishmen and had used them as slaves, was shipwrecked on Fishman Island. Some fishmen wanted to take revenge and kill him, but Queen Otohime protected him. She believed that harming him would ruin any hope for a better future. She even went with him to the surface world. After days of negotiation, she returned with a written promise: if they gathered enough signatures, the celestial dragons would allow fishmen to live on the surface. To everyone's surprise, the petition gained traction. Citizens from all over Fishman Island signed their names in support of her dream. But tragedy struck. A fire was set. destroying all the signatures, and Queen Otohime was fatally shot. This moment resembles the assassination of Martin Luther King, who was murdered after achieving major civil rights victories. Malcolm X was also gunned down for his activism. Hody Jones used the Queen's death as propaganda. He shouted that she was killed by a human, erasing the progress she made and further fueling the hatred among the fishmen. After hearing the full story, Nami makes a powerful gesture. She chooses to forgive Jinbei for releasing Arlong. Meanwhile, the new Fishman pirates, under Hody's command, forced citizens to stomp on Queen Otohime's picture. Anyone who had signed the petition was now marked as a traitor and sentenced to execution. Hody Jones then overdoses on energy steroids to boost his power. He announces his plan to publicly execute King Neptune. During this madness, Hody confesses that he was the one who assassinated Queen Otohime and framed the human for it. We also learn that Hody and his crew grew up idolizing Arlong and listened to his stories of human oppression intently. They were radicalized by his hatred, despite never having interacted with humans themselves. After hearing about Fisher Tiger's death, they launched a violent campaign against fellow fishermen who gave blood to humans. They lynched and burned them, behavior hauntingly reminiscent of the Ku Klux Klan's racist terror. Seeing everything unfold, Prince Fukabashi realizes their mistake. The hatred they should have addressed was not on the surface, but right there in the Fishman district. He begs Luffy to defeat Hody and end this cycle of hatred. So Luffy, the Straw Hats, and Jinbei rise to the occasion. They risk everything to protect the people of Fishman Island, and eventually defeat Hody Jones and the new Fishman pirates. But Luffy is seriously wounded. He needs a blood transfusion to survive. The problem is that he doesn't share a blood type with his crew, and that fishmen aren't allowed to share blood with humans due to a racist law. Jinbei, sharing Luffy's blood type and being a pirate and free spirit, ignores the law and gives his blood to Luffy. The scene is narrated beautifully. Both the wounders and the wounded alike bleed red blood. That small narrow tube, far too tiny to call a road, was unlike prejudice born of hate and fear, or battle washing blood clean with more bloodshed. But it was, nevertheless, more than any wild dream or ideal fantasy, a vivid and real representation of the true road toward the sun. Moved by his actions, Luffy asks Jinbei to join his crew. The arc wraps up with a celebration, featuring a singer, a swinging jazz orchestra, and dancers filling the stage with energy and joy. This is seemingly inspired by 20th century jazz shows, which originated in African American communities. A couple hundred chapters later, we reach the Reverie, a global summit of 50 world leaders. For the first time in many years, Fishman Island is officially represented. During the summit, the same celestial dragon who shot Hachan 2 years earlier tries to capture the mermaid princess, Shirahoshi. But before he can, he is stopped by the celestial dragon who had once shipwrecked on Fishman Island and was changed by Queen Otohime's compassion. And eventually, Jinbei officially joins the Straw Hat Pirates. His presence on the crew is symbolic for the improved bonds between humans and fishmen. But this arc isn't just about fishmen and humans. It's a reflection of real-world history, of slavery, racial discrimination, and the long, painful struggle for equality. From the horrors of the Atlantic slave trade to the courage of civil rights leaders like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, the Fishman Island arc echoes stories we know from our own world. Thanks for watching One Piece of History. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you'd like to see more episodes exploring the history behind One Piece. See you next time.